It started as a joke in an online EV forum. A blurry photo of a strange, angular vehicle spotted in rural Rwanda, captioned, "Tesla killer? Built for $5,000? LOL. No one took it seriously. Until it beat every Tesla in a range test. The vehicle in question was called the Malil 1, a name that in Swahili means forever. It was boxy, looked barely aerodynamic, and ran on tires that looked like they belonged on a tractor. But what set it apart wasn't how it looked. It was what it did. Because the Malil 1 just wouldn't stop driving. The story broke wide after a group of French engineers visiting Kigali University uploaded a 4K drone video. In it, the vehicle, silent, modest, and oddly mesmerizing, completed a 1,200 kilometers test run across the eastern provinces of Rwanda, on a single charge. No backup batteries. No solar panels. Just a car. Plugged in once. And then it drove for over 745 miles, uninterrupted. At first, people assumed it was staged. A hoax. Clever editing. But within weeks, MIT sent a delegation. So did Toyota. And quietly, so did Tesla. The car had been developed by a 27-year-old engineer named Isaac Wiksa, a self-taught innovator from Kenya who had once built drones out of e-waste. Funded by a small Pan-African Green Initiative and built using repurposed laptop cells, hand-etched circuit boards, and a local material called omubaka, a plant-based composite more durable than carbon fiber. His team had assembled the Malil 1 for just under $5,000. The secret wasn't just in the battery. It was in what it didn't have. No dashboard screens. No luxury insulation. No over-engineered AI systems burning passive power. Every decision, from the chassis to the wheel design, had been ruthlessly optimized for energy conservation. And the motor. Isaac had rewired a brushed DC motor with his own intermittent loss architecture, a staggered pull system that somehow reduced heat loss to near zero. It wasn't flashy. But it worked. Better than anyone imagined. By the time Tesla's Model 3 long range was put up against the Malil 1 in a side-by-side test on the Serengeti Loop, one of the harshest endurance routes in East Africa, the results shocked everyone. The Tesla tapped out at 347 miles. The Malil 1 kept going for more than double that. It wasn't even close. Data from the test revealed something almost unsettling. The Malil 1's energy usage per kilometer was less than half that of the Tesla's. The MIT team began running simulations back home and couldn't replicate the efficiency. Not even close. The heat signature from the car systems was so low, they speculated that the vehicle was tapping into ambient thermoelectric exchange, harvesting small amounts of atmospheric energy during movement. When asked how he came up with it, Isaac simply replied, "I didn't build it to be better than a Tesla. I built it because my village was 30 kilometers from the nearest hospital and we couldn't afford fuel." That single sentence broke the internet. Suddenly, the story wasn't about specs. It wasn't about Elon Musk or lithium-ion cells. It was about something bigger. This was a $5,000 electric car made from recycled tech and plant matter, outperforming the most advanced EVs on Earth. Not in a lab, but in real-world, unforgiving conditions. Tesla tried to buy the design. So did Rivian. Even Chinese manufacturers made offers. But Isaac refused. His blueprint, he said, would be open-sourced. A gift. And then, something strange happened. The data from the Malil 1's final test showed a drift, an anomaly in the battery feedback loop. As it reached the 1,150-mile mark, it began gaining voltage instead of losing it, which should be impossible. At first, engineers thought it was a sensor error. But the logs were consistent. The battery was replenishing itself. Slightly. Slowly. But undeniably. A thermoelectric anomaly? Geoinductive recharge? Or something else? The vehicle was brought into a lab in Cape Town for disassembly. But when the team opened the chassis, they discovered something unexpected. The core wiring around the battery pack had fused into a crystallized matrix, one never before seen in engineered circuits. Organic, self-reinforcing, and exhibiting slight magnetic responsiveness to solar particles, even in darkness. They weren't sure whether it had grown on its own, or if Isaac had designed it. When asked again, Isaac gave no clear answer. He simply smiled and said, "Africa doesn't build for today. We build for forever." Then, without warning, the Malil 1 disappeared. Literally. A facility break-in. No forced entry. Just an empty floor where the car had been. Only one thing was left behind, a small white USB stick. Inside it was not a blueprint. It was a video. Isaac, walking through a dusty field under a blood-orange sunset, whispering something that didn't match any known language. Behind him, something glowing just beyond frame. A shape. Large. Glow. Humming. And the words in the video title simply read, "Version 2 has already begun." No one knew what to make of it. The footage was raw, shaky, ambient, saturated in orange light. The whispers Isaac spoke couldn't be translated by any linguistic model. Experts from Cambridge and Nairobi ran the audio through AI language detection software, expecting perhaps a dialect, a chant, or a code. But the result was chilling. The frequency wasn't language. It was data. Spoken not in words, but in pulses, subsonic vibrations that aligned with the same voltage anomaly found in Malil 1's battery logs. Isaac hadn't been saying anything in the traditional sense. He was transmitting. To what or whom remained unclear. Within days, the USB stick itself went viral. Hackers tried to replicate the data and inject it into other EV systems. Most cars bricked instantly. A few overheated. But in one isolated case, a second-hand delivery van in Ghana ran continuously for nearly 10 days on a depleted battery pack before the motor mysteriously burned out. The tech world scrambled for answers. At a private defense summit in Zurich, a redacted presentation titled M1, The African Singularity, was leaked. It proposed that Malil 1 was never meant to be a vehicle. It was a proof of concept, an intentional anomaly designed to test the boundaries of electrical entropy. A soft weapon or a soft miracle, depending on how you looked at it. What they couldn't explain was how it worked. The crystallized matrix, found in Malil 1's core wiring, once thought to be the result of faulty wiring, was now being studied as a new state of matter, partially conductive, yet semi-organic. Neither metal nor mineral. It responded to sound. It restructured under magnetic shifts. And most baffling of all, it showed signs of self-repair. A material never catalogued on Earth. Not naturally. Isaac vanished from public view. His last confirmed sighting was at an energy conference in Addis Ababa, where he refused to speak and left before the second panel. After that, his email addresses shut down. Social accounts were deleted. His workshop in Nairobi was cleared out, completely. Tools gone. Parts missing. Blueprints shredded. But his idea had already broken free. In the following months, small black market garages across Lagos, Dakar, and Dar es Salaam began showcasing strange, experimental EVs. Homemade. Glitchy. Many failed. But a few moved. And when they moved forever. No fuel. No recharge. Just soft humming, faint resonance, and a trail of confused scientists scrambling behind. These new vehicles weren't built from kits. They weren't assembled by corporations. They were grown. Piece by piece. Component by component. Using open-source files that weren't shared through GitHub or forums, but passed physically, in person. USB to USB. Whisper to whisper. The files were called code_47 Malil. No one knew who created them. And then one day, a new video appeared. Not on YouTube. Not on TikTok. but on an unlisted server buried deep in an encrypted network used mostly by off-grid technologists and data cartels. The video was titled Melil 2 Test Run. No description. No tags. Just the footage. It showed a new vehicle, twice the size of the original, obsidian black with a hexagonal shell design, moving across what looked like the salt flats of Botswana. But it wasn't driving. It was floating. Only a few inches off the ground. But unmistakably hovering, soft vibrations under it kicking up fine dust, never making contact. No wires. No solar panels. No noise. At the end of the video, a single frame blinked on screen, almost subliminally. A map. World view. Glowing red dots traced across it. 6 points. 5 of them were major cities. The 6th was buried deep in the Congo rainforest. And next to that 6th point, a timestamp. Phase 3 initiates, November 11th, 25. Something was coming. And it wasn't just about cars anymore. By the time global intelligence agencies noticed the red dots on that map, it was already too late. The network had scattered. The video replicated itself faster than it could be deleted. Within 48 hours, fragments of the hover footage were being dissected in dark tech circles, anonymous physics forums, and even military contractor Slack channels. No one could confirm where the footage originated. No metadata. No source tags. The server that hosted it had self-terminated exactly 77 minutes after the upload. But one detail stood out. The timestamp, November 11th, 25, a date that, at first, seemed arbitrary. Until someone cross-referenced it with an obscure UN logistics document. A scheduled Intercontinental Energy Summit in Kinshasa, Congo. The 6th point on the map. The summit was meant to unveil a new Green Corridor initiative, African nations proposing to bypass Western energy infrastructure entirely by developing a Pan-African clean energy grid. It was mostly symbolic. Until now. Now it looked like something else entirely. The intelligence community buzzed with speculation. Was the Melil project planning to hijack the summit? Was this some kind of underground demonstration? A soft declaration that Africa wasn't just catching up, it was leapfrogging? Meanwhile, on the ground, something more immediate was happening. Villages near the Congo River began reporting strange lights at night. Low hums from beneath the soil. Entire stretches of forest seemed to pulse faintly in the dark, like something alive was moving beneath the earth. One night, a remote tribal guide recorded a flickering silhouette in the jungle, too fast for the naked eye, too smooth to be mechanical. The footage showed a sleek shape weaving between trees without touching the ground, its underside glowing dimly like bioluminescence. When it vanished, all the handheld electronics in a 3-mile radius died instantly. The world was watching now. And then, on the morning of November 11th, 2025, at precisely 11:11 a.m., the summit began. Delegates, diplomats, and engineers gathered in a high-tech tent pavilion just outside Kinshasa. Security was tight. Drones circled overhead. The press were told nothing extraordinary would be shown. But then, without warning, the lights in the pavilion cut. No announcement. No alarms. Only silence. Until the floor beneath the tent began to rise, slowly, like an elevator, and then split apart. And from beneath the earth, Melil 2 emerged. No wheels. No cockpit. No visible interface. It floated, its black surface gleaming like volcanic glass, its shape shifting slightly as it adjusted to the light. The hum it emitted was deep, barely audible, but felt in the spine like a subsonic drumbeat. Delegates stood in stunned silence. And then, in a voice that wasn't transmitted by speakers but inside everyone's head, came the words. The future will not be delivered. It will be grown. From the ground. From the forgotten. From the unheard. Half the audience fell to their knees. Not in fear, but in awe. because in that moment it became clear. This wasn't just about energy. It wasn't about economics, competition, or technology. It was about rewriting the entire structure of progress. The African EV that once ran silently through backroads was no longer a machine. It was a signal. The old world had just been overtaken. No one clapped. No one cheered. They couldn't. Because the moment Malil II spoke, attention older than any border, any patent, or any global summit descended over that crowd like a veil. It wasn't fear. It was realization. The realization that humanity was no longer moving forward. It had just been leapfrogged by something that had evolved quietly, out of sight, out of permission. The vehicle hovered forward. Unmanned. Untouched. As it did, nearby cameras, both professional and personal, failed, one by one. Not violently. Not glitching. They just stopped recording, as though reality had decided parts of this moment weren't meant to be captured. Only one drone stayed functional, an old analog model used by a local journalist who had hacked it to run on outdated firmware. From it, we got the last few seconds of footage before the air itself changed. Malil II unfolded. Not physically, but visually. Its surface shifting in geometric ripples, panels rotating in mathematically perfect spirals, revealing an internal structure not of wires or tubes, but living architecture. The internal pattern moved, pulsed, almost breathed. A scientist from the Kenyan Institute of Nanobiofusion whispered, "It's not metal. It's a biological circuit board." And then, something even stranger. Above the pavilion, clouds began to swirl, not like a storm, but like a synchronizing field. Lightning didn't strike. Instead, light condensed into a column above the structure, shimmering in layers of violet and gold. In that moment, a sound played. A frequency. It bypassed ears, bypassed speakers, bypassed all interpretation. Everyone felt it. In bones. In marrow. In memory. Some wept. Some stood frozen. One delegate collapsed, smiling, eyes wide, whispering in Swahili. "It's showing us how we forgot." Then the vehicle pulsed once, brightly, and vanished. Not lifted. Not teleported. Not cloaked. It simply wasn't there anymore. And when it disappeared, something else was left behind. A single seed. Perfectly round, jet black, resting in the center of the stage. No one knew what to do with it. No one dared touch it. So it was sealed, transported, and secured at an off-grid lab run by the African Physics Alliance in Namibia. Within 2 days, it cracked open. What grew wasn't a plant. It wasn't mechanical either. It was a structure, a lattice of interlocking filaments resembling both neural tissue and crystalline metal, growing upward at a rate of 4 centimeters per hour, without heat, without power, and without explanation. The lattice emitted faint rhythmic tones, non-random, measured. Mathematicians soon realized it was counting. In prime numbers. It was measuring time. Or perhaps, counting down.